Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
Welcome to the Not Watching Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley.
Okay, so we're deep in the summer movie maelstrom at the moment, I think. Been spending quite a lot of time at the cinema lately, haven't you, Marcus?
Yeah, surprisingly, considering I don't go too often. It's been quite satisfying for me, to be honest. I've had 3 back-to-back films that I've left the cinema really enjoying myself, which has always been my bonus, because the amount that tickets are going up by now. It's like,
oh yeah,
if I've left grinning going, yeah, that's a pretty good feeling I've left with, or just grinning like an absolute bastard.
yeah, they've been serving it up for you, haven't they? Big time.
Yeah.
But let's begin with a film that I've seen too, and that is John Wick 3.
Oh yeah.
Or Chapter 3, Parabellum.
Bastard grinner.
Its full title. I had quite a good time with this. Where would you place it in terms of the trilogy?
To be honest, I don't think any of them are going to better the first one, simply because it builds the lore, and I think that's with a lot of films with sequels as well. I don't really. I kind of put it equal with the second, only because for me it balances itself out. Because I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I dubbed this one purely as like the Mad Max Fury Road of the series, in which there is a plot, but the plot is just a vehicle device to go from one location to another. Whereas the second one was more integral to the plot, with the whole him fulfilling the marker and everything else, and the explanation of how he got out of the game in the first place. But I still think this did a really good job of continuing to build on the lore and everything else. So I don't know if I can place it just yet, whether it's better or worse than the second one. Maybe because it's newer and cooler, I'd probably say it's slightly better.
Yeah, I mean, I have that problem. I've got this habit of like trying to rank films after I've seen them, and it's such a bad idea because you go back and you're like, why did I even think that?
You can't, because it's like pure movie ecstasy running through your head. So you're trying to be reasonable, and your brain just going, yes.
Yeah, I like to think that for me it was probably better than the second one, but not as good as the first one, because the first one is always going to score more points for kind of being the origin point. But I do think that they've done a good job of sort of building the lore out to the point where, you know, they're sort of embellishing it as they go. And to be honest, it is very much just like a continuation of one story that hasn't really let up too much.
This pretty much does what I wish Matrix Reloaded did. Whereas after the first film, you see him fly off, and then when we first got to see Reloaded, they said 6 months had passed, and we immediately like, huh? Whereas this, the end of John Wick 2, he's running with the dog, and at the start of this, he's just about made it out of the park, and he's on a New York street, and it's just still raining, so he is still running. It's probably no more than like it's less than an hour. It's probably about 40 minutes after the events of the end of the last film. You're pretty much straight in. So I mean, the story takes some interesting turns and stuff, but I think the real merit of this film is definitely the just the action. Really, they've just totally gone crazy and tried to one up themselves again. They totally have.
Like there's some sequences here that I've just never seen before, and it put me more in mind of films like The Raid that it did the previous two, because they've kind of become a bit more creative with it. I think they've kind of doubled down more on the sort of hand-to-hand combat, although there's a lot of that kind of, you know, frantically reloading, or actually not even frantically reloading, just controlled, timed reloading just in time for them to survive, and double tapping people in the face and stuff. So
it was more, what I liked about it, it was more of the same, and like you said, it did feel different, as in this felt like it was a slight more nod towards whilst including it being a John Wick film, it's uber violent and everything, it felt like it was a little nod to the movies of old, which, if you recall me saying, eons ago, the first film felt like. The first film to me felt like an old Hong Kong cinema era, pre-1999. Chow Yun-fat, John Woo before he got lazy. That sort of crazy, hardcore, hard-boiled sort of baby in one hand, shotgun in the other. That sort of mental era of cinema. The first film just reminds me of that. It is just a pure revenge tale with some of the most brutal but realistic fighting and a true, honest, straightforward, protagonist. He is a man of focus and sheer fucking will, as they remind you repeatedly. And it just feels like each of the films kind of do more of a nod to a different type of film in that genre. Yeah. And I'm feeling that more with the third one as well. And we'll get into kind of probably little bits of spoilers and stuff maybe. Because it's been out for a little while now, isn't it? Because we're kind of skirting around it a little bit. But
we do get to find out a bit more about him, though, as a character, don't we?
Yeah.
His actual origins, as it were.
Oh, yes.
Which is quite interesting. And, so I thought that was cool. This is a series that always started with kind of quite a lot of, questions to be answered. And it's great, really, that the film series has been successful enough for them to actually explain a lot of this stuff. It's, as far as box office goes, it's doing well, all right. And a sequel is on track for, I think, 2 years' time.
2021, yeah.
Yeah, 2021.
I'll be there.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I've got to say, sort of going into just briefly, because we've got to talk more about the film. Some of the sequences were just breathtaking. When he runs into the antiques the fight in the antique store.
Oh, the
antiques weapons store with knives and guns and everything. And he literally puts a gun together. He picks up a gun, gets a bullet, doesn't fit.
Oh, yeah.
So he deconstructs a pistol, reconstructs it with an element of another one, manages to put the bullet in, spins the barrel, and then takes a guy out. It's just like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's got plenty of moments. I mean, all this is first act, so I don't mind mentioning it.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that he kills a man with a book this time.
Let's not forget the fact that he once again uses vehicular combat, but shall we say more traditional homestead versions, aka horses.
Yeah, you know what?
It fit in with the whole anything is a weapon.
You know what? The only thing about that bothered me slightly was the fact that they were letting off all those guns so close to the horses, and I was just thinking, surely they would leg it or bolt or something.
Yeah, I was thinking that. But I think they were police horses, though. I would imagine so.
Oh, yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah, they might be trained for that.
Firearm training to keep them calm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
Because it was a stable in the middle of a New York street, so I'd imagine.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose we can give them that then. But yeah, there's a lot of other kind of animal-based combat as well, which is pretty incredible. I've never seen dogs used in a way like that before.
The choreography was insane. It was one step away from her actually shouting out special moves as they were doing them. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was crazy. It was my jaw was just on the floor through that whole sequence. I gotta say though, I'm loving John Wick's new dog. Sort of always see big respect to Daisy the Beagle, R.I.P., who started this whole journey. But his current one, he's such a clever dog. Yeah. It's the little things he does and stuff, and I like that they take time to show it. It's not a spoiler, but there's a scene where he's in a cab and he says, "Take the dog to the hotel." And they actually show a scene where the dog arrives.
Yeah,
so you're not left with that sort of, oh God, what happened to the dog? It's everything's given, I think, the right amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. And also, Lance Reddick gets to do a lot more.
Oh, yes.
And one of the main villains is played by Mark Dacascos, who he's not had like an amazing career, but he's well known for doing like martial arts and things.
Yeah, he was in Romeo Must Die. I think he was the villain in that against Jet Li. Or was it Cradle to the Grave?
Oh, I don't know.
It's one of those two. I think it might be Cradle to the Grave. Yeah, he was the villain in that. So he squares off against Jet Li. He also had a 90s, maybe 2000s. He was basically, his longest role, I think, was played as, I can't remember the character's name, Eric Draven in the Crow TV series. So and that was a lot of sort of fighting and bits in that as well. So, and he's had a couple of like one or two bits of movies. One of my favourite movies in the 90s was Drive, which was him and someone else in. It was a different film called Drive, not the one that we all know.
Yeah, that comes up quite high. The top thing he's known for, though, is Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Oh, yes, that's it. Yeah. How can I forget that? Oh, and he's Iron Chef, which I thought was a nice pun of him owning the sushi. The ramen, sort of place.
Yeah, he's done loads of stuff, but it's all been fairly, like, low-key.
Yeah.
I think. But anyway, yeah, he's really good, and there's a cool little twist with his character as well that I found quite fun. Oh, and also, of course, this features a couple of the guys from The Raid.
Yeah.
And the fight scene that he does with those two is hilarious.
It is incredible. The thing is, I liked the kind of, like I said, it was more about the world. They all seemed like kids meeting their idol.
Yeah.
Don't want to say any more about it, but yeah, it was. I liked that. It was like the mutual respect as certain people were facing off. It was like, this is clearly a massive world, and they've all heard of him, and it's kind of like the chance to box against Mike Tyson or something like that, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. I'll try not to die.
Yeah, it all kind of plays into his infamy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and that's always been like a really big pillar of this franchise, like the fact that he's got such a rep, you know. Like
the thing is, I didn't really. You don't really get the feeling of just how people are scared of him, like, because I know they jokingly say that he is like sheer will, but when you mount up the fact that 2 and 3 are literally back to back, all that he goes through in John Wick 2, and he's thrown straight into the deep end as to carry on. There's no rest.
Yeah, I think it's just that. Yeah, they have to kind of. It's a dangerous world, isn't it? And so,
but that's what I mean. That's I can see how he earned his reputation. The fact that he just keeps going and going and going. It's like probably the only time that he rests is when there is that break and there's that travel to another destination. I'm not obviously skirting around. I'm not giving plot points away. But that's probably the only time really that he gets to rest. And obviously like through injury, maybe. But it's just, he just keeps going. Like, you think all of this shit he goes through, everyone he faces, is on the back of the second film.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very well paced, but I think this film actually probably has the longest actual timeline of all of them. It's probably a week at least.
We get to see more of the high table as well, don't we? The sort of leaders of the assassin, and we see more of the hierarchy and the way that that's kind of organised. Because I think you hear about it in the second one, when he assassinates Sophia, someone or other, in Rome.
That's right. Because she's going to be sworn in.
Yeah.
She's about to have a place at the high table.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. I did go back and rewatch. I got the first two on Blu-ray recently, and they're really, really nice. The soundtrack on both is incredible.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
yeah, for sure. Okay, so we should probably move on.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to get through here. Not least of which is the film that you've most recently seen. I thought we could do next.
We'll just get through that in it, and then we get on to the other bits and pieces. Cool.
Yeah.
So, this is a film that's generated a lot of controversy, and I could see both sides of the coin. I know where I sit on it, but that's because I have a bias, as it seems does half of Metacritic. It's literally a critic versus audience sort of a strange thing going on with this film, and it's really divisive. It's Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
And it's not doing too great amongst critics, and I can see why. But having seen the film, I can see what they did with the film to differ from Godzilla 2014. And they decided basically to take it in a direction that was more in line with the Toho films, as opposed to trying to make it a more fleshed out, slightly toned down, more realistic one. Because I think that was one of the criticisms, ironically, of the first one, was that the monsterness and everything was too toned down for a Godzilla film. Because you have films like Cloverfield and everything else, which people describe as like Blair Witch meets Godzilla, but not as mental. And for a Godzilla film to be a Godzilla film, it needs to be a certain way. And I kind of think it's kind of like how you would expect a Batman film to be. You know, there are certain beats it has to hit. He needs to be smart. He needs to be agile. He can't just be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a tights and a cape, punching people in the face. You know, it's got to be a certain sort of way. And I think the problem is, because this has taken that route, and it's unforgivingly a love letter to the fans, it's polarised opinions.
I think it's just had to be quite niche, really.
Yeah, but I think the problem is, in order to satisfy what it aims to be, i.e. a Godzilla King of the Monsters film, it has no choice but to be that. I mean, all of the things in that film, it's really weird, because I can understand. I mean, the plot isn't amazing, but I wouldn't approach a monster movie for something with a deep plot and massive character development. I would never approach a genre movie like this. I would say it's akin to something like Pacific Rim, where a lot of people have just trashed it and said it's crap. But if you're a fan of big robots punching big monsters, it's awesome. And you've got some cast that do some really... I mean, in this film, you've got Ken Watanabe, who does what he does best. I mean, God, that man's voice. He is really good. You've got a few others as well, and I just found that the spectacle of it... I mean, I do think that they even toned it down from how mental it would be, because a lot of the fights, they do cut away, and they still don't... You know, you almost feel like some of the fights were going longer, like it could be a 2.5 hour movie. But they trimmed the fat off a lot of the one-on-one confrontations. There are some things in this film that I would just say, if anyone's listening to this and you are a fan of Godzilla, you have to see this film without question. It is pretty much like when The Force Awakens came out for Star Wars.
Yeah.
In that way. I mean, like, regardless of the critics and all that sort of stuff aside, if you're any kind of fan, like, towards it, it is beautiful. The score has gone back to the Akira Ikefune original. It's a version of that by, I can't remember, Greg Bear, I think his name is, who did the score. And it is amazing. It is a perfect blend of, like, the Toho Eastern style and a newer, almost Hans Zimmer-esque sort of version. You've got the original official Godzilla theme in there now. You've got all of the weird batshit elements. You've got nods to, you know, without giving any plot points away, various types of Godzilla. Like they nod to Burning Godzilla, which was the last of the Heisei era, which was like from the 50s up till probably 94? No, 98 maybe, where there was a film, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, in which that was the end of that Godzilla. It beat the bad guy and then melted down. Literally created meltdown. Completely died. And they nod to that. There are so many nods. You got the Mothra score, with the original score minus the singing, which is kind of a plus in my point, because it does grate on you a little bit. You've got like... And they take time with it, which is scary, because... You don't get all of the monsters like you would in a crazy Toho, and I think there are like, in the Japanese King of the Monsters or Destroyer Monsters, there are about 6 kaiju or something like that. Whereas in this, there's Rodan, Mothra, Ghidorah, and Godzilla, I think. Yeah, that's probably about it. But yeah, I think they handled it incredibly well. And it's the first time I've seen them actually pull off something I thought was going to be impossible, which is actually make a Godzilla film that felt like when I was watching it as a kid, and you can suspend belief, like, you know, it's a guy in a suit, but you have that imaginative aspect, and you suspend all of that, but with the money and Hollywood effects of now. And it felt exactly like that, which I thought would be impossible.
Yeah, it feels miraculous, but then we are living in a world now where things are kind of able to get the justice they deserve.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, that's the thing. I do find it a little sad that, there are some, they've gone for a pretty basic kind of plot, which just allows things to happen in a certain way. But taking that element aside and enjoying it as a sort of big budget monster movie, and some of the shots and everything, I was tearing up. Genuinely tearing. I genuinely was tearing up because I could not believe what I was seeing. Like, actually seeing a lot of these rubberized, monsters, and they look almost the same, but they're CG and they're brutal and they're fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's like, whenever, there's a high chance that the main cast won't die because it's a Godzilla film and they need to get to the end and learn a lesson of some part, and there will be a sacrifice. It's the usual things. They've gone for a very Japanese monster movie feel in terms of the basic story. But my God, it's fucking amazing. I need to see this 2 more times. Genuinely. This has gone on my list of Blu-rays. I wish I had like a 200-inch 8K screen that I could play this on and just live in that world again with speakers on both sides of my head, because I've not had anything take me back to my childhood. I thought Ready Player One did that. The feeling I got from Ready Player One with this, I got 1,000 times more.
Yeah,
but I mean, anyway, that's my bias, because obviously coming from a fan side and everything, but I can completely understand that from a movie point and a critique level. Yeah, it does have problems. Wholeheartedly, it does have problems, and there are plot points and plot holes and stuff. But my God, it's amazing. I would say, even if it's not your cup of tea, if it does come on Netflix or whatever, it's worth a watch, mate.
Yeah, I mean,
especially on your telly.
Yeah, I mean, I've got absolutely, I'm interested in seeing it. I'll definitely watch it at some point, but for me, it's just not really a high priority.
No, that's fine.
I don't have any of the reference that you have.
Yeah.
All I know is that they've made a couple of Godzilla films before. The last one was better than the one before that. But I didn't really find too much to latch onto, apart from, oh, look, there's a big thing there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they've given it kind of a character. And I think, so far, this, new, because this is part of this new universe of monster movies that they're making.
Legendary Monsterverse or whatever it's called.
I think so far they seem to be approaching it in the right way.
Oh, and Monarch, the company, are totally the JSDF force of this film. In all of the sort of Japanese films going back from 1954 up until, they released the Godzilla Resurrection or Shin Godzilla in 2000 and something. So they're still making these in Japan. I mean, there's been about, I don't know how many films, but it's in the tens of films. There's at least 20, maybe more films. But it's just the way that the Monarch have become, they almost become like the Japanese self-defense force, where they've got the ship and having to go around and stuff, and it's mobile, and they're not just in one spot now. It's really weird what they've done, and I don't know how they've done it, and I don't know what kind of special drugs the person had to take to tap into the mind of a Japanese director. But he's fucking done it, and it's really weird. It kind of freaks me out a bit if I think about it. But yeah, I don't really know how to. I'm not trying to sell it to you, because I know I don't need to, and I don't need to, because it is what it is. It's like the Pokemon movies and whatever. There are enough people out there.
Well, we'll get onto that very soon.
Exactly. But yeah, I'd just say though, if you want to approach it purely as just a a disaster monster movie, it's worth a watch. I think you might be pleasantly surprised at how batshit insane it goes.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really the reviews that have damaged it so much. It's the fact that they haven't really, and probably quite rightly so, there is no real star in it. So, that's still a thing. I think
that's always going to be a problem with Godzilla films, because Godzilla is meant to be the star, but it's also meant to be the event, and also meant to be kind of like is it Royal Emmerich? It's kind of like The Day After Tomorrow. Godzilla is the weather, which is almost like a character in itself, but doesn't quite work without going as cheesy as they did.
Yeah. I also thought the marketing campaign was a bit crap. The posters weren't very good, I don't think.
Well, I think there was a lot out there, though, because I had to keep hiding a lot of it. The posters just revealed all of the monsters, and that was pretty much, you knew who was going to be in it. The couple of teaser trailers just showed that it was basically just all going to hit the fan, and that was pretty much it. But I would say that the plot point in it is scary, because they do acknowledge the same. They don't shy away from the source material at all. No. And it's very rare to see that. It would be, the equivalent would be if Dragon Ball Evolution went a bit like The Matrix Reloaded, where they were actually flying around and the guy powered up and shot a beam and took out a whole planet, as opposed to the shit that they did. It's kind of like that. You don't expect. I was not expecting it to go as far as it did. Yeah. I really was not.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
It gets a 11 out of 10 from me, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well. Good. I mean, it's finding its audience is all I can say. It's done exceptionally well in China, and I can't see on Box Office Mojo. It doesn't tell you how much it's made in the UK, but it's done really well, like rest of the world, compared to its actual US box office.
I think US it only did like 49 million. I think
so far it's done 50 million in the US.
50.
It's done 69 in China.
I think worldwide it did it's not done too much, it's like 179 or something like that. But that was a couple of days ago, I think.
I mean, it's almost made its budget. But it had a $100 million marketing.
I hope it gets a chance to continue, because I think despite the rocky reception it kind of gets, it's a movie that needs to be done, and the next one needs to be done, and then when they're done we can discuss them or whatever. But I don't think they should impact them, because there's only going to be like one more, maybe another one, and that's it.
They're committed to Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. It has to, because they're shooting it, or they shot it already or whatever. But maybe they might think about putting it out at a different time of year. Putting it out so hot on the heels of Avengers was, always going to be tricky. But I'm glad it's doing the job. We might as well segue into another film with a very specific audience that you've seen and I haven't. Yeah. Since we've already mentioned it. Detective or Pokemon Detective Pikachu is a film.
It's I really enjoyed it. I'm unashamed to say that. For me it feels like a pretty damn close spiritual successor to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I feel is what they were going for, not just because of the detective thing and the whole, maybe it is that sort of feel, the sleuth sort of thing, and without it feeling too noir, it kind of does, but in a weird sort of almost cyberpunky noir, not quite, sort of, I don't know, its own sort of weird world. It kind of builds a weird world. Thing is, it's all shot in London.
Yeah, I heard that.
Around Hackney. I recognise a lot of the places. I worked around the corner from where his apartment is.
Wow.
I recognise so much of it. Like, the part where he meets the Detective Pikachu is a block of building, and it's right near Cargo nightclub in Shoreditch.
Oh, I know.
In fact, a lot of it is shot around Shoreditch.
Cool.
But the way that they treat it, and they kind of add neon signs and everything to it, they do disguise it quite well, and you do get a sense of a nice town. So anyway, basic plot is that there's a kid, and he's in a village, and everyone has Pokemon. He doesn't want Pokemon, and you get to see his mate, who is guy from Deadpool, who owns the cab.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I don't want to be offensive and say like Suresh, because I'm thinking of the guy from Heroes. But
right, okay.
But yeah, it's Dopinder, I think. Yeah. Anyway, him. And you see the whole basic idea of trying to catch a Pokemon, it doesn't work, and the Pokemon comes after him, beats the shit out of him, and it's, you know, it's a nice humorous way in, and then he basically gets like a letter saying that his father's missing, so he goes down to the town. There's like a city where Pokemon and humans can live in harmony, and the Pokemon are free to work, or they're able to coexist as partners. So you'll either get some Pokemon just doing like jobs and stuff and everything else. It's kind of weird, like Pokemon Blade Runner City sort of thing.
Right.
But I think that's a massive plot point, just so then you won't see Pokemon battles. Because the way that they've done these, if they did Pokemon battles, I think they would be too brutal. And I think that's my only main criticism of it, is that you don't really see battles. Even when they're fighting against each other, it's either to further a plot point or to try and take out like an enemy or something like that. You don't outright see a lot of the moves. When you do, they look really cool. And I think most of the people that have left the cinema have all said they were really pleasantly surprised by that. And Brian Reynolds does a great job as the voice of Pikachu.
Cool.
But yeah, and Justice Smith, his character, I think, is not necessarily meant to be the main character. He's just meant to be there because for about 2/3 of the film, he's a complete dick to Pikachu, basically. He's just like, I don't care. I hate Pokemon. My dad, whatever, liked Pokemon more than me. Fuck him, kind of thing. That sort of attitude. Which is very similar to Bob Hoskins' character of not liking Toons in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where the similarities are. It has that sort of journey. And I won't give the plot away because it's still out and there are people that want to see it. But I think it's, for a family movie, a really decent effort. And obviously you could tell that it's been held back a bit because it's a kids' movie. It is a kids' movie, so no matter how much we as adults want to see like Pikachu electrocuting someone, there are some really dark jokes in there. There's one where there's like a Mr. Mime, and I think it's from the trailer, and they're interrogating him, and he's like, you know, he lives in like a mime world, it's a character, and basically to try and, it's a slight spoiler here, but to try and get the information out of him, Justin Smith's character starts pouring gasoline over him, like as a mime, and he's like freaking out, and you're like, Jesus, this is getting a bit dark. And he's kind of like, yeah, and then you see the bit where they're talking and they get the information, and he's holding up a fake match, and then he kind of just drops it, and then you see Pikachu kind of go, oh, what? And then you basically see them both look up, and you hear the sound of like flames go up. So they kind of psychologically burn this Mr. Mime to death inadvertently, which is one of the couple of darker bits and pieces. But yeah, no, it pretty much plays out like a live action Pokemon movie. So if you've ever seen any of them and you're kind of a fan of Pokemon, I think you'll enjoy this. They do a really good job. Some of them look really great. Some of them look a little freaky. But yeah, I left feeling it was an extremely well done effort. And it feels like the start of maybe more.
One of the better video game based movies.
Yes. It's definitely not a Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
despite what everyone thought initially, seeing fluffy Pokemon, it's like,
Yeah, I think it's got that kind of universal sort of branding, really, where they haven't had to really stick so slavishly to a video game story, and they've just kind of used the franchise to sort of plug into their own story.
The thing is, there've been so many games. I mean, there's a new set coming out now on the Switch.
It's every 6 months, isn't there?
Yeah, well, every couple of years, I think, or something. But there have been so many different stories, so there is no one main one. And the original Generation 1 story, it's kind of, well, they can chuck that in later on. He can meet someone called Ash because of the way they do it. Oh, and Ken Watanabe's in this as well. He's a police detective, and he's got a Snubble as his partner, which is like a pink bulldog type thing, which looks kind of cool.
Wow, he's getting around.
I know. I've seen him twice in like a month, maybe, or two.
It's all good.
But yeah,
Cool.
Anyway, worth a watch, I'd say. Definitely
Cool.
worth a watch.
All right then. So yeah, that's the first batch of big summer movies that we've seen so far. I just wanted to quickly mention one movie called The Perfection, which is on Netflix at the moment. Have you had time to catch this yet?
I have not so far. I've been watching other things that have taken up my whole time, not just cinema. But I've heard about this. Is it really... Because everyone puts the same review out, I've noticed now, for Netflix horrors. They make people physically ill, and people are getting physically sick from this movie. It's like the default sort of thriller stroke horror sort of thing that goes out in all the sensational papers about the new Netflix thing, and I never know what to think about it now. So
yeah, no, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, it might be for some. It might be for some little girls who have never seen a horror film before.
Okay, see, that's what I want to know, because like people are going mental now.
Yeah, but no, what's good about it is that it's quite a twisty sort of story, and it's best to just go in blind and not know anything and see what you think.
Okay,
I was very impressed.
I'm looking forward to that.
So, and that's all I'll say about it. Because I don't want to spoil it at all for anyone.
And that short spoiler-free review was brought to you by Rob Howard.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when you've seen it, we could do a little spoilery thing, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone really. But yeah, check out The Perfection on Netflix. It's one of their films that's worth a look. And at 90 minutes, it's fairly brisk and doesn't waste too much of your time. So that's that. I just wanted to quickly check in with our summer movie wager. I'm looking at the scores right now. I was doing really well until Godzilla came out. Obviously, a lot of the films that are on most people's lists, or our lists anyway, aren't yet out. So we're scoring 0 points for any of that. But so far at the top we've got Endgame, Aladdin, Detective Pikachu, John Wick 3, and Godzilla 2.
Yeah.
Godzilla 2 is trailing behind by quite a bit, but it has only just come out. But when you look at what it's done compared to Aladdin, it's made about a quarter. So I don't think it's going to be in the same league really. No. But yeah, I mean, this is just US box office, so we'll continue to see. But yeah, I think you may have made a mistake not putting Aladdin in your
I know.
anywhere.
I think I've got. Well, we mentioned this in the previous podcast. I think I just saw the rage at trying to use this site on my phone, and I banished it. Once I was through the other side of trying to set it up and add films on there, I think I was just done. And I think we met up for a beer, and I was saying that I think I've made a terrible mistake. And you were like, yeah, all these other films need to come out, and they're going to just accumulate. And I was like, yeah, excuse my French, I fucked up. But I didn't go back and change it because I thought, well, I don't know what I would have put. So I'm just going to let it ride and see what happens.
I mean, right now, I'm kind of banking on Aladdin getting knocked down by Toy Story and Lion King.
Yeah.
But that's going to push Detective Pikachu down even further. And right now, I'm doing okay with that. I've got 7 points for that.
I think Detective Pikachu might get pushed down more.
It definitely will.
Hobbs and Shaw is going to be a bit of a beast, I think. I think a few people might go and see that. I think that might help push it down even more as well. I don't know, though. I do want to go and see that. But it looks stupid fun.
Yeah, I think next up we've got X-Men Dark Phoenix. I'm expecting a full report.
I'm going to go see that, so I'll save you that
You're
pain.
so stuffed. You're so stuffed this summer.
Yeah.
You're like going every week.
Yeah. And Brightburn's out as well, so I'll be seeing that.
Jesus,
what
you
the
really
hell
are.
has happened? They've gone, hello, Marcus, you've not been to the cinema for a while. Have all these films, some of which you may or may not be too fussed about, but we know you want to see them. So we're going to put them all out in like a 3-week window. Good luck.
The only issue I've got at the moment is that the new film by the guy that made Hereditary, Ari Aster, his new film Midsummer, is supposed to come out the same day as Spider-Man, or the same week.
Okay.
So that's going to be an expensive one for me. But other than that, Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, maybe.
I don't know. I should have put that as a dark horse.
I don't know if... this is just what I want to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it'll really come down to, like, how long has it been since I've been to the cinema, and am I feeling like I can waste the money on a film that is going to be pretty fucking empty, I imagine. But probably a lot of fun for the 2 hours that I'm watching it.
I think the money that I probably would go and see Hobbs and Shaw, I could combine with another ticket and maybe go watch Godzilla 2 in the IMAX.
Is that even on? Is that on the IMAX?
I think so. It should be. If any film needs to be on that IMAX screen, Jesus Christ, it's got to be that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I hope so. It probably isn't though.
No, I don't think it is.
Oh bollocks! Why?
You might catch it's not making enough money. Probably
well,
it wasn't tracking well enough.
I've just got to hire a building in Japan that has a screen on the side of it and go and watch it there.
Yeah, you might. I mean, it might be on one of the other IMAX screens in Leicester Square.
Yeah, true.
The Empire or something. But they're showing Dark Phoenix there as of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm going to go see that probably this week.
Yeah, no reviews for that yet.
No, there won't be.
No,
I'd expect it. I'm going into this with the kind of feeling of just wrapping up the last episode of a series. I've got little expectations. I'm going in seeing whether it's going to be better than Last Stand. That's it.
Is it the first superhero remake?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
No, I suppose
we've had a billion Spider-Man films, so no.
Yeah, we've had multiple origin stories, I suppose. So no, it's not.
No, Spider-Man's on his third remake in less than 20 years.
Yeah, that's true. But it is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm just so unexcited about it.
Well, to be honest, what I've seen in the trailer, it seems a bit more faithful. As in, the Phoenix is actually an entity that's inhabiting her, as opposed to being her inner power and all that horse shit they did in the original Fox one. They seem to be following the mythos a bit more. So hopefully it's not going to be like Apocalypse, where it's, oh, fucking Christ, what have you people done? And it's more of a case of, I see what you've done. I'm hoping. That's my level of hope for it.
Fair enough. The film I'm most looking forward to seeing really this summer, though, is the new Tarantino film. I've just heard so many good things about it. And I've, in fact, started rewatching all of the Tarantino stuff. I bought the Blu-rays of the first 5 films. So that's Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, and Kill Bill 1 and 2 for £12 off Amazon. And they're absolutely rammed full of special features. I was watching some of the Reservoir Dogs special features just before I started this call. But yeah, nice. They're really good. Some of them are really old. Some of them are quite new. But yeah, I watched Pulp Fiction last night, and man, that film holds up. That is one hell of a movie. I saw you
posted that. I've not seen that in so long. I'll tell you what film I have not seen, because I've seen Pulp Fiction a few more times. Reservoir Dogs. I think I've only ever seen that film twice in my lifetime.
I think I've only seen it once. I think I've only sat down and watched Pulp Fiction once. I mean, they're films that, I don't know, they just became so part of the lexicon.
They get quoted and everything, but it's almost like you don't need to see the source material anymore. But when you do, wow.
Yeah, I didn't realise that speech that Sam Jackson gives. Yeah. He says that three times in the film. You hear that? Oh wow! Because he does it first time. Then you get to hear it again from the point of view of the guy who's got the gun in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That runs out and tries to shoot them. So you hear it again then, and then you hear it at the end of the film when he tells Tim Rothit in a different sort of tone. But yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome, awesome film. Such an excellent structure to that and stuff, and the way it all kind of connects together, but is told in such a non-linear way.
Yeah.
I re-ranked it, and it's definitely in my top 5 now, I think, of all time. But anyway, that's movies. Thanks for listening to the Not Watching Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Playing Podcast, where we talk about video games, and the Not Listening podcast, where you can hear Adam and Co talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notwatchingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk, and if you like what you've heard here, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, bye!